What's up, people? This is Vishal, and in one of my last videos about JavaScript prototypes, I received a comment from Sunny who says, can we add a new method to ES6 class which will have access to the this keyword? So if you have not checked out my previous video about JavaScript prototypes, you can click on the suggestion box and you'll find it there. So let's try to understand about JavaScript classes now. So let's look at the code that we wrote in the that video. So we created a function called maths. We added some prototype methods, and we gave an opportunity to the implementer to add their own implementation, so that they can extend the library and they'll be able to execute the functions and retrieve the result. So I've already created the implementation using ES6 for this. So let's go to this file, and if you see here, I've created a class called maths. It takes a constructor, this dot result equal to init, and it has all my library methods which will do the operations. And I also gave an opportunity to the implementer to extend the library. Now everything else is same. We have just instead of having prototype keyword for all these implementations, we have moved them into the class. So assume that this class is provided as a library to you from the author, and as an implementer you are extending this class and adding an operation for square. So let's quickly look whether it works the same way or not. Let's head on to localhost 8000, open our console, and you'll see here the output for the new implementation using ES6 classes is still returning the same response. So what we see here is even though if I write a class, and I can still add prototype chain to the class. So now we'll see why this works and try to understand some depths of JavaScript classes. Now to understand it further, let's try to convert our ES6 class into vanilla JavaScript and see what exactly is happening. So let's head on to babel.io. On Babel, we'll just try to transpile our JS classes, ES6 classes into vanilla JavaScript and see what is happening. So to use this website, I've already added a plugin here, which is transform classes. So let's just type in a test class here, class test. Okay, so if you see the output of when I write class test, when it is converted into a vanilla JavaScript, you will basically see here that this class is nothing but a function, and the prototype keyword definitely works on a function. We have already seen that. So the entire thing about class is just a syntactic sugar. It is just the function, but with a better sugar, syntax sugar applied to it. Okay, so it is totally apt to show this meme to you right now, that they are one and the same. There's no difference between JavaScript classes and JavaScript functions. And we'll understand further like what exactly is happening. So so far I've just written a class called test, so which is returning which is basically becoming a function. And now let's try to add this dot. It needs a constructor. Okay, and inside this constructor I'll just define this dot a equal to 10. Okay, so if you see the output of the vanilla JS output of this class is basically inside the function we have a this keyword with a variable a equal to 10. So um, so we are basically sure that let's say if I want to write test dot prototype dot print equal to function, and when I say console.log this dot a, so this function is extending the so this print function is basically extending the test class and adding another functionality to it to print a. and it is using the this keyword. So if you see the output, there is nothing changed. Prototype is still the same thing. It is already in vanilla.js. So now let's see whether we will be able to access this or not. So let's open our console. Let me just disable the warnings. Open this, then copy everything here, and let's call this function now. Uh, how we'll call it? We'll just create an object. Okay, and when I say test dot print, it should print the value of a. So when I execute, you can see that the value of a is printed as 10. So the question from Sunny, which says, will we be able to extend ES6 classes to add more functionality to it, and will it have access to the this keyword? This explains why it will have the access. One more thing that we did in our implementation about ES6 classes, that we moved every function inside this, and we were still able to perform the chaining between everything. Let's see, let's go to our console again. Let's do console.log on test. So if you see this, it is nothing, it is printing here class test, but if you see the prototype chain right now, so I already added a method print into the prototype, right? Now let's pull this down a little and add some more things here. So I'll create a function inside the body of the class, and let's see what happens with that function. So let's call it get, let's call it say hello. Okay, and what this is going to do is just gonna console log hello. Okay, so now if you notice the implementation here, the vanilla.js conversion of the same thing, you will see that there are several things added here right now. So there is a test, this is a constructor. Now there is a function, they will just basically created a function called create class, and it is passing our constructor and array of methods that are inside the class block. Okay, so let's try to understand what this create class is actually doing. So in the create class, there is a function which is getting called define properties, and where we are passing constructor.prototype, which is nothing but test.prototype for this case, right? So in the prototype chain of our test function, we are going to add some props, so which is happening by this function. So let's just take this, let's put it in our editor. We'll create a scratch file. The command for creating a scratch file on WebStorm or IntelliJ is command shift n. Okay. Okay, so we create a JavaScript file, copy this here, let's format this, and now let's try to understand what this define properties is doing. So we already know that the target that is passed to this function is constructor.prototype, which is nothing but test.prototype. And in that test.prototype, we are checking whether the props are there. Okay, so if the props are there, so on the first iteration, the value is going to be this, right? So there is a key called say hello, and there is a value called a function. Okay, and what we are doing with that is nothing but we are just using object.define property, and we are using the key that is being passed as say hello, and we are assigning that key to the prototype. So this explains everything now. So let's see what object.define prototype does. We will go back to our console, clear everything out. Um, in this define property, let's say I pass an empty object and descriptor.key for let's say I pass it as sum, and the props that we have passed is going to be key, which is sum. I'm just basically copying whatever the things are being passed over here. Okay, and in the value we are having a function. So I'll not define anything over here. We'll just see what is the output of this. So if you go to the object, now you see that sum, there is a function created sum, which is holding the value. Value is nothing but this function, right? Um, Now what happens when I say um, test dot, so we already have test defined from our previous execution, so we'll just say test dot prototype and run this. Now if you see here, we have added this sum function into the prototype chain of test. So let's do console dot log of test. Oops, test. And let me clear everything again. And so now if you see the prototype chain of my test class, it is basically having the print as well as the sum. So what this entire class thing is essentially doing, it is creating the same thing that we did in our previous implementation. So whatever we did here with the prototype keyword, it is basically when I write a class, it is whatever the internal implementations I write over here are basically added to the prototype chain of the function, and hence we will be able to access the this keyword even if I define a new if I extend this library and add a new method into the prototype, I'll still have access to this because our implementation has not differed at all from our previous implementation. It's just the syntactical sugar which is making it look different. Okay. Another amazing thing to notice about JavaScript classes is, let's say if I implement this class in Java and I create a similar class and I have some internal methods. So Java object will basically hold the references to all these methods, right? But unlike Java, in JavaScript, these classes are, we just saw that it is making a prototype chain of all the methods. It is not holding the direct access. So the object of this maths class, or let's say that the object of this test class is only going to hold the references to the this dot a, and the rest of the references will be fetched via the prototype chaining. And if you still have doubt about prototype chaining, you can click on the suggestion box and look at my video about the JavaScript prototypes. And so that's all for today, guys. I hope this helps you understand the JavaScript classes better. And if you learned something new today, please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues. And also subscribe to my channel to get more such videos. And thank you so much.